Dude,
Aren't
that's
we all?
exactly what I'm talking about. That exact photo. Do you remember the guy that came into the space and shared it?
Richard Doty.
Probably was him. Hey, Frank, what happened to Amy? How did she pass away?
Do you really want me to answer that?
Yeah, because I can't figure it out.
She was murdered.
That checks out.
Yeah, it's kind of a sore point, mate. She was murdered for her work on free energy. She was a brilliant mind. She was an expert on free energy, the extraction from the ether of basically free energy, but also massively aware. Can everybody hear me okay?
You sound good, Frank.
Yeah, she was murdered for the 5 weeks leading up to her death. She said to me, I'm being harassed, I'm being this and that, and she had been for a year. And I'd logged all those events, and I logged 4 other scientists that she was involved with, and they'd all been harassed as well and subject to directed energy weapon attacks. And in the 5 weeks leading up to her death, she was like, "Well, if you hear that I've committed suicide, it wasn't a suicide." And then when I was called by my mate in the CIA, who was the first person who called me, I spoke to her on the Friday night, late Friday night, Saturday morning, early, because I let my cats out really early. I woke up at like 0500, 05600 or 0600. I turned on my phone, and my first message was from a CIA buddy, and he said, it looks like they're saying Amy has committed suicide. He goes, but we, as in we in the agency, were treating it as a homicide.
Dude, that's dark. I apologize. Sorry for your loss. That's
Well,
incredible.
I'm sorry for her family's loss. I mean, look, I never met Amy,
And
but we were in contact for a year, and
and
we ended up speaking.
what was she researching real quick, Frank, if you don't mind? What was it just
She was researching free energy. I know she'd been in touch with the Trump White House about UAP. Um, Obviously, she didn't tell me anything sensitive, and I didn't ask her because that's not my position to ask her. But it was obvious to me um, that she was working on something very, very important,
hmm.
and the level of harassment that she and her scientific collaborators faced. I'll just say this: look, I could have said, "Oh, this is all bullshit," and then the same CIA contact who called me to tell me that she was dead several months before, I was on a Zoom meeting with him and other people from the agency and high-ranking members of Homeland Security, and Amy was there, so I knew that it wasn't bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds legit to me, man. That's awful. That's awful.
Yeah, absolutely awful. I mean, it devastated me. But it took me back to Forrestal, McDonald, other people who've been murdered because they were too heavily invested in the UAP topic.
So you think it was more UAP related versus energy based?
No, it was free energy UAP related for sure. No doubt in my mind.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man, that it just seems like a very dangerous thing to be looking into. Almost everyone who's came out and talked about having a engine that could or a car that could run on water, they go missing or they die.
The saddest thing, mate, was like I said to her because her family's got an armory like where they live, and I said, look, just pay my airfare. I said I'll come over and I'll look after you for 6 weeks, and I'll make sure I'll beef up your security because I am a security professional, and I won't charge you anything. And she's like, no, I'll be okay. And then she's murdered.
That's not your fault. I can hear that in your voice. Like, man, I'm sorry that knew that person personally, but I just want to say, if you Google like philosophers that have been murdered, there's like 28 philosophers. So it's not just like UAP, like energy. It's like this has been going on for a long time, where like if you have something that is not what everybody else is saying, something bad happens, you know?
So we can change the name of the space to Secrets, Chill or Not.
Yeah, well, my personal and listen, let this be a no doubt here. I used to be a professional military intelligence officer. Okay, so I investigated, all kinds of threats to the British Army. I did counter-terrorism, all the rest of it. Right, so I'm not a slouch. My personal assessment is that it was a sub-state actor, and most likely operatives working for some large US aerospace conglomerate, because Amy had figured out something that they didn't want her to figure out, because they had basically a claim on it, shall we say. That's my assessment.
Right on. Frank, I can't thank you enough for being here, for sharing your story. And yeah, just thanks. There's a lot of vulnerability there. And it's good that there's an awareness brought to this, right?
And yeah, I do feel guilty about it. I do feel guilty about her death. I loved her to death. I mean, sometimes we just stay up like all night drinking, right, together. She'd be drinking whiskey, I'd be drinking beer. We'd like be listening to music together. She started out as a source, right, on UAP, and it developed into much more than that. And I really came to see her as a sister, and she saw me as a brother. And she thought, she was always very worried that people would think she was crazy, and that's why she didn't tell anybody else. And she always used to say to me, "Oh, it's because you're a former intelligence officer, like you've seen this shit before, malign actors, I'm not crazy." And over the course of the year, I pieced together her story. I talked to all the people that she was involved with, and there's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. She was murdered. She was murdered for what she was working on. And it's a great tragedy to humankind, because not only was she a brilliant scientist, but she was also like a beautifully lovely woman. I mean, she used to rescue cats, man, from the forest around her house. She used to bring in like these little kittens, and she had about like 20 cats around her house, like that she'd rescued from the forest. And she was also an experiencer. According to her, there were wendigos and also kind of like dog men, she said, like around her place, but like they weren't malign. And I spoke to her mother as well, and they said, no, it's quite common. We see these things all the time. They come up, they look through the windows, but they weren't at all freaked out by it. But she was a fantastic scientist, an experiencer, and a soul sister of mine, one of the most beautiful people I've ever known.
Thank you, Frank. Kai, and then we'll get over to Lucius.
Hey, so thank you for talking about that again, Frank. I know it's a little difficult talking about Amy. Tupa, actually, that's someone I was going to talk to you about, because of the fact that she's done some work also on heliocentricity, which is dealing with the sun being the center of the universe. And I thought that was interesting and wanted to bring that to your attention. But she also dealt with like anti-gravity work as well. So.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. Yeah, when I realized that the heliocentric model of the solar system matched with like the Vedic view, I realized that there was something to it that was beyond, like the idea of both models are interesting. One is the astral, one is the physical. The idea that two things could be true at one time was very fascinating to me. So, yeah, this idea that the heliocentric model was just the best that we had kind of isn't necessarily the case. I'm not saying that the solar system doesn't move the way that we know it moves now. I'm just saying that there was reasons for the heliocentric model that worked beyond just the what we were observing. It's fascinating, and that's very cool. I had no idea she was looking into that kind of stuff. Alexi.
Yeah. I just wanted to kind of relate to Frank and then also ask him a quick question. I mean, I was involved personally with a green tech company startup that basically had an engine. You'd pour water into it. The exhaust would be water. It was a cold exhaust, and that project essentially disintegrated. And what you just touched on about the other members of her team suffered directed radiation weapon technology. Could you go into detail about what types of physiological effects those individuals suffered?
Is that a question for me?
Yeah, that'd be for you, Frank. Like, what were the physical effects that the other team members underwent after they had that directed radiation weapon?
Okay, well, I had pictures from Amy, and I can talk about it now because she's dead. She doesn't care. Or maybe she does care because she's watching over me. Burns, serious kind of like, deep burns into like, the hands, the face, also the back. And also she sent me pictures of her back, and her vertebrae were extraordinarily protruded, like kind of almost deformed, like you could see all the bones sticking out of her back. And she told me that basically the amount of radiation that she received, that the sorry, just a minute. The spinal fluid in her spine, it cooked off, and she said that she felt something in the back of her throat like burst, and she had spinal fluid coming down her throat. Okay, because her spinal fluid cooked off, it expanded, within her spine. And I saw also pictures from other members of her team, the same kind of radiation burns to the face, the hands, and it was normally the side where one were looking out of a window, and that's where you'd get fried. But over a long time, she had terrible gastrointestinal problems as well. She literally had a lot of problems eating. She had to smoke a lot of marijuana in like her later days, just to be able to control not just the physiological effects of what happened to her from the radiation, but also for her stress. And she definitely had post-traumatic stress. That was a psychological issue. But also I saw she sent me pictures and video from, and there's another scientist as well in the frame, whereby there was a window with aluminium shutters on the outside of the window, i.e. the street-facing part, and a directed energy weapon was used, and it actually burnt the aluminium onto the glass of the window.
Wow. So you've got like physical evidence on parts of the building from this event.
Yeah, I don't have the physical evidence, but I have the videographic evidence, and I also have the testimony of her and the person that she was with, and also of the other people that she was with. But there was also other stories where, and I confirmed this because these people, when she died, they absolutely crapped themselves, and they called me up. They knew that I was a contact of hers, and they said, Frank, like, we need physical protection. Can you advise what we should do for our personal protection or whatever? And I did advise them. Two colleagues of hers in Hawaii were kidnapped, and they were waterboarded, they were drugged, and they had a pretty horrible time. And there was another case, one of Amy's boyfriends went out basically for, hang on, my cat's just come back. Quiet kitty. He basically went out to a conference, and he got roofied, and then Amy received pictures of him with some weird Russian guy or some weird guy with his arm around his neck, and then she received email saying, we know who you are, and your boyfriend has been telling us about your work, right? And then she had another friend who was in naval intelligence, and they got food poisoned. Like they ordered takeout. They had their tires slashed. Now they have cops permanently stationed outside the house. And that was basically to warn Amy, to tell her to shut up and to stop doing the research that she was doing. Amy always told me I don't have relationships for very long because I can't put any man that I'm with through the shit that I'm going through.
Damn. Logan.
That's kind of like I'm kind of like livid about that. Someone would do that to somebody, especially today. There's got to be some evidence of like that fuckery that was going on, right? If that was truly going on, someone's targeting her with some weapon. What about her autopsy, right? What, they do like a thorough one, or how did that go down?
I spoke to her on the Friday evening. I picked up the phone, opened the phone, turned on the phone early Saturday morning. She was autopsied on the Saturday, cremated on the Sunday. Nobody wanted what happened to her to be in the public domain. Okay?
That's not good enough for me. I would be fucking causing a huge fucking fight about that. That's crazy.
Well, yeah, you can say that, but the bloke who told me that was, in the intelligence community, and he is a big bad bloke. Former special forces. He's a mate of mine. We talk about a lot of veteran stuff, PTSD, other shit. But he's in the. I'm not going to say where he is in the intelligence community. But he's one of the last blokes that you want to fuck with. And he said, we have no control over it. He said, this is something beyond us.
Awful. Well, Frank, I appreciate you sharing your story. If you don't mind, I'm going to try to get this conversation back on the rails with aliens. I think the conversation
Yeah, sure, mate. I'm going to log off. I'm a bit upset
you're
anyway.
Good. You're good. You're good. I appreciate you letting us know about Amy.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate it.
Yeah. The energy stuff is nothing to mess with, guys. We were in the space earlier. Chase held it. It was is UFO Twitter a joke? And then there was questions about like how to move forward and what to do, and the concept of like writing our congressman and stuff kind of came up as an organized effort. A lot of people, when they consider like making a change, I don't know if they're aware of the types of mechanisms in place to prevent that change from happening, and how fast and how dirty it can get. And so that's one of the reasons why some of these world-changing ideas, you know what I mean? I suggest we do them ourselves and not try to like figure out how to do these like things that might end an entire industry. There might be mechanisms, like I said, in place to prevent stuff from happening, for other people to get, basically to secure the bag. Like change is the taking of something from someone and giving it to someone else. You know what I mean? For a lot of people, that kind of change is them losing power, losing money, losing relevance, losing dominance. And that's unacceptable to a lot of people. So you come out and you start talking about free energy and all this, dude, the proof is out there of what kinds of stuff happens. And so that's why I think it's interesting to suggest a congressman put himself in that type of, in the line of fire willingly for an answer to satiate our curiosity about aliens is almost unimaginable, because they are at the same risk.
I've been typing on this fucking offline computer right here. Super fucking sensitive fucking shit for the past several days. With this window right here to my right. And that window door right there to my left. And I've been, my hands have been burned to hell and back as I've been typing. because you can beam me through there and through there, and you can get a 3D image of what I'm typing. Because this computer doesn't have a Wi-Fi card, you can't hack it, but you can maybe get a 3D image of me typing. So like we just did that, and did that as an act of pure desperation. And guess what? I feel better immediately. Like, my hands still burn because there's damage. But it's like my body relaxed when we barricaded the shit. And it was like, oh, like relief, like immediately. Because they're hitting me through the... I'm sitting here typing on this thing. Like, directed energy weapons are about harming and harassing people, but they're also sometimes surveillance mechanisms where you can't hack the computer because there's no Wi-Fi card, but you can send microwaves in to get a 3D image of me typing on the keyboard, and you can reconstruct what I'm typing by microwaving me, even though you can't hack it because there's no Wi-Fi card. That's the type of shenanigans going on right now. Like, that's the reality of like directed energy tools and weapons. Like, that's kind of the shit that's going on.